my interest in this area actually started as a young boy. I was born and raised in a small Iowa farm town, and it so happened that my father worked at a local newspaper, and the publisher, one of them was a woman who was a subscriber to the New Yorker magazine. And back then, and for many decades, there was a series of articles published in the New Yorker called Annals of Medicine. The author was Burton Roche. And he would actually write kind of whodunit stories about outbreaks that had been solved by the CDC, at that time called the Communicable Disease Center. And I just fell in love with kind of the medical detective work that they did. And so even as young as 7th and 8th grade, I would tell people I wanted to be an epidemiologist, because that's in fact what they were called back even in those days. And people would look at me with a frown like, what is that? And so forth. So I've pretty well known for a long time that I really wanted to be a medical detective, and such is where I'm at today. Well, first of all, science is the language and the currency of making good policy decisions. I direct the Center for Infectious Disease Research and Policy. Policies today are those decisions made by our leaders, elected officials, even private entities. And all of those would be ill-informed if they weren't based on facts, or they weren't based on the latest and best information we had that is brought to us by science. Whether you're a biologist or a chemist, in some cases even a physicist, whether you're dealing with the humans or you're dealing with animals, whether you're dealing with laboratory specimens that have viruses or bacteria in them, all of these are critical elements to coming up with a scientific understanding and a scientific response to, for example, this pandemic, but also all the other decisions we need to make that involve, human and animal health, our plant health, the environment. All of these things really have to be informed by science. Without that, it's just chaos. Without that, we basically don't have a structure upon which we can organize. Imagine if today we had a weather forecast every day that would come out. It was for one location in the world, and we were supposed to interpret that for the rest of the world. We'd all say, it's meaningless. Well, when we don't have science helping us to serve as the framework for how we know what we know, why we know it, and how it changes, then we're pretty much in that same position of having one weather forecast for the entire world on that given moment. And so science is the bedrock. Science is really what we need to understand is how we get through these situations and how we solve them. Not only just understand how to respond, but how do we address them? How do we get new vaccines? How do we understand what this virus is doing? They're all critical and they're all part of science. Well, as I have said throughout my entire career, data are the gold currency of making good policy decisions. You have to have information. When you don't have it, you still sometimes have to make tough decisions, but they're much less informed. They're much more likely to be wrong. The more data we have, the more we can understand what is going on. How those data are collected is very important. Are they systematically collected? Are they collected in a way that very well might give us bias, or we call in epidemiology confounding? And so the real challenge today is also having students who are trained and understanding how to collect data, how to use it, how to analyze it, and then how do you move that forward in a best of policy way? How do our elected officials or our leaders use that information? And that's also part of our job, is to not only prepare the conclusions from our data analysis, but also then how to basically have them used. I jokingly say that having come from this small Iowa farm town, there's a restaurant there called the S&D Cafe. It's on Main Street, this little town. And I've always believed that if I couldn't sell my argument, my point of view, my data-supported conclusion at the 10 o'clock coffee club at the S&D Cafe, then I'm not going to make it. And so in a sense also, it's really important to make sure that what we do with our science is understandable, it's actionable by the public. We need you. We need you so badly. The science of the world only gets more complicated as we learn more. As we learn more, we realize how much more we have to learn. And so I urge people, men and women, boys and girls, get involved with science. It truly is a field that will offer many opportunities going forward. It'll be consequential. Imagine being in a job that not only pays you a paycheck, not only gives you a comfortable living, but also makes a difference in the world. You know, today in this world of COVID-19, we unfortunately have to work many, many long hours, day after day after day after day. And sometimes you just get tired of it, particularly when you get into the controversy that overlaps some of these issues. And you know, I never, ever have a problem understanding why I do every day what I do, and I get up with as much enthusiasm as I had the day before, because what I'm doing is trying to make the world a better place for my kids and grandkids. That's an incredible motivation, and science is the way that I can do that. So for all of you that want to make a difference out there, I can't put it in more stark terms. Get involved with science. We need you. You can make a difference. And what a way to live to make the world a better place. Sometimes people are intimidated by the concept of being involved with STEM. They feel like, oh, it's too difficult. I can't understand it. I won't know what to do. How do I compete? Don't let that happen. Let yourself try it. Get involved. You know, and it may not be one element of science that, for example, is your forte, but another area might be one. You know, the person who is out working in the field with wildlife, tracking down moose, working on that, they're very different than the person who is in the laboratory dealing with viruses and bacteria. Surely their subjects are different size, but when that virus or that bacteria kills the moose, or even infects humans, suddenly that laboratory and that virus and that bacteria that scientist has been working on, they all come together. They all are part of the team. And so I would just urge you to see the fact that if you're involved with STEM, you'll never be alone. You'll never by yourself basically have to solve all the problems of the world, but you'll also have an opportunity to do great personal things that could, in fact, very well change the world with just one discovery. So please get involved.